demo of using WSL2 on Windows to run the Fabric full stack development workshop. So this is rough edges and all. This is the Git repo here. Please ensure you have all the required tools as listed here. There are an experimental Docker container, dev container, if you want to use that. There's a Vagrant environment you can use as well, if you have Vagrant and VirtualBox. Possibly can use Hyper-V, but it's a bit temperamental. And you can always set up everything locally, which is hopefully what we're going to do for here. Basically you need Docker, you're going to use Kubernetes, you need kubectl. JQ is incredibly useful. Just is a simple command line runner you can use, or you can copy the commands directly out of the file. Kind is great for local cluster, and K9S is a very good CLI tool to set up. Can see all things running inside your Kubernetes cluster, wherever that may be. I recommend also you use one of the Hyperledger Labs tools, WEF, which is very useful for managing IDs, connection profiles, and converting between different formats of those. You also need the peer CLI from Fabric. It's very useful. And when you get to the Kubernetes side, the Ansible playbooks for Hyperledger Fabric 2 beta is also recommended. Not currently published to Git, to Docker Hub or GitHub Docker registry. So best thing to do is clone the repo and issue a Docker build on that. Okay, let's go down. We want to do getting started with the smart contract, which is here. And now let's go over and have a look and see if we can actually do this. So, right, WSL2 in the repo already. Okay, nothing running in Docker. Show the version of Node we've got. Yep, that's good. JQ is installed. We installed WEF as well. Yep, that's good. Now the peer I know I don't have installed, so what I'll do is for ease, there's a bootstrap directory of the Docker file within it. And we don't have the command in there. That's the Docker file with a number of these provision scripts. Let us look at provision user. Actually, where did I put that Docker command for installing Fabric? I've lost it. Hang on a sec. Okay, stupidly enough, actually, it was staring me right in the face. It's right here. We can do this command here, but I'm going to actually do a variation of this. So it's a bit quicker. Okay, so actually put the bin and config directory there in the bootstrap directory, which you may not actually want, but it doesn't actually really matter. That's what's in the bin directory, and the config is that. The important thing is the next two bits, export path equals to present working directory path. So now peer version works. Export fabric CFG path, also important, to the config directory. So that's now all set up there. And for WSL2 users, how did I start Docker? I'll just list the script so you can see what it is. Okay. So just flip back to here. This is the page I'm going to follow the instructions on, and this is over on the left hand side, my other monitor, so I'll copy stuff across from here. Okay, I recommend having a couple of terminal windows open. We'll come to that in a moment, but we've got the workshop already cloned. Directory, I'm going to export a workshop variable, which might come handy later so we know exactly where we are. So this is going to use an existing contract that's already been put in here and built. So if we change to that directory, this is the structure that's there. We're going to do npm install. Sure, and then npm, look at npm run to show what we've got. Npm run build is the one we want because this is a TypeScript product. Just going to go and do that very quickly, which is good. Possibly almost too quickly. So let's check the next step. It says to run the metadata command just to see if everything is actually compiled. There we go, that is actually run. Let me just make that fraction wider so you can see. And actually, if we count the metadata JSON through JQ, you can actually see here this is listing the data of the contract we just created. So asset transfer, create asset, read, update, delete, transfer, and so forth. And that is that. Okay, so that's the install and build section. Next section is we actually need to start some form of fabric to connect this to. But I will come back to in a minute. So let's go back to com. Okay, we're here. Now, two files I'm interested in here. These just files on the other side. The dev one has a number of things for starting into fabric for development. We're going to start microfab in this particular case. So that's just running Docker. Okay, what I actually am going to do is just open another console window here, so I can do docker logs -f. It's got a name, so I can do that. So I can just keep an eye on the bottom right hand corner of what's going on. These are important environment variables. We want to run these, run our commands acting as organisation 1, as the administrator for organisation 1, which has been created. So if I copy those environment variables there, that's all now set up to act as organisation 1. I will also put them over there as well. There is a source file, so an end file which has been written out. It's been shown here where it is, that you could source and get everything that way if you wished. Okay, so that's the start fabric infrastructure running. We now need to run the chain code. This is going to be running the chain code under our control, not under the peer's control. So we actually need to first of all decide what port we're going to run the chain code on, and typically all the examples use 9999, but that's entirely up to you. Okay, we need to create a package to install into the peer, but this package is really just going to contain information about what where the chain code is, so basically that chain code server address it's not actually got any code in, so that's actually now created that particular asset. TXTS TGZ file, fairly small as you can see, because it's really just containing the information about where the chain code is going to be running on port port 9999. Okay. The important thing actually is this number that it's put out, which is the package ID or the chain code ID. So hang on to that, because we will need that in a moment. That's that done. Okay, now we really need to just install this onto the PO. Simple as that. So you're just going to copy these things over from the GitHub repo, the documentation there, and we can watch stuff happening over there as we install things. Let's confirm it's installed. We need to, every organisation needs to approve, but we've only got one organisation, so this is just a single step. Yep, that's approved there, and then we are committing that definition. Bang, everything's set up. No, we haven't run any chain code as of yet. Okay, so let's go, and we've already set the chain code server address. We've got the chain code ID set. There we go. Chain code name I've got set from a previous test run, useful to have, but not for the moment necessary. Okay, so the important thing now is this next command. So I'm going to run the npm start server debug, and all this does set -x, so you see what it's doing. Node options is setting up the node runtime to open a debug port on line 229. So then that like to get to debugger. Fabric chain code node server, which is how you start the chain code address, which you've seen above, and the chain code ID. This is non-TLS, by the way, to connect back to the peer. The non-TLS one here is exactly the same, but you can see obviously it doesn't have the node options to control the debugger. The actual one, this is running in a more production environment with TLS. You can see the bottom one, you've got the TLS configuration that it needs to run. When this is running in the traditional way, when the peer controls things, it will actually just do npm start rather than any of these, and this is what it would do up here, fabric chain code node start. But we're not interested in that, we're interested in this one here. Start server debug. Bang. So that's that actually running. Let's make that a fraction smaller so it's a little easier to see. So that chain code is now running. The question is, can we actually invoke some transactions on it? And the answer is yes. So I'm going to put over here the peer command that will actually do this, and hopefully enter that on. Peer command not found. I didn't do the setup of the path and stuff in here. So let's go to the, we knew it was in the bootstrap directory, so I'll just find the previous commands in my history. So let's try that peer command again. Bang, there we go. So that's invoke the transaction. You can see things going through here and going through here. If I actually just pipe that through JQ again, you can see this is the same metadata that we saw earlier when we ran it from the code. Okay, so I'm going to stop that now, so that's the chain code process not running, and that everything is still going. Just to prove actually if I then start run this again, started it, I can still issue the transaction from over there. So let me bring up the code in here. I'll bring this across here. Let's have a look at the code. Asset transfer. That metadata function we saw is one that was already been sent. It is a standard one that's already present, so these are the ones we've got here. Let us try. Actually, probably one of the simplest ones is asset exists. So let's see if we can call that. Let's take rid of debt. I've only got one contract in here, so I think we should just be able to do asset exists. Let's call it 001, see if that exists. Oh, no, actually, that's what happens when I'm not running the chain code. So let us start the chain code up again. False. Okay, it doesn't exist. Right, great. So I want to see now if I can. Let's go and see if we can create something. What's this? Create asset, asset JSON string. Let's have a look at what we're kind of expecting. Quite a few things. As I'm probably going to get this wrong, well, let's go and try and see if I can connect this to the debugger so we can JS. I want to, is there attach? No. Okay. I'm sure there should be that. There used to be an option here where you could actually do an attach. Yeah, here we go. I don't want to do Chrome, Docker, Java, attach to process. Right, here we go. We don't need that bottom one. We need to attach to the process. Process ID will let it sort itself out. So let's see if that can attach to the running process. Whoa, quite a few things to choose from here. There we go. That's the one we want. Yep, and claim it's attached. Let's go to asset transfer. I'm going to stick a breakpoint here. Go back to my console, and I want to do, what was that? That was create asset, wasn't it? I did say the next thing was going to be some JSON. So the argument, so I'm going to just make a back up number what it was, make a stamp asset ID 001. I know there was a color. Red. So I'm going to hit enter here, and I got that a bit wrong. Did I forget a? What did I get wrong here? Oh, I know what I got wrong, because this actually wants to have a it's a JSON object in the format of a string. So it needs the string representation of the JSON. So this is something you have to be very careful. Is this going to be right? Okay, so that's executed that, and I'm hoping, bang, here we go. I knew I was going to get that wrong, but you can see I'm actually in the debugger now, so I can actually say, okay, I want to unmarshal. They say it's going to fail in the first line. I know because I gave it some random stuff. But at least now, if I was coming in, and I actually didn't know I'd got it wrong, I could step over this and say, okay, fine, now I've paused that's the bytes, I've paused that. I can step over this. Oh, when I return pause, I've got something. I've come back. Okay, now he's going to call into this method. And here we go. It looks like there's going to be some errors I'm going to trip over in a minute. Yep, that looks like it's obviously returned back to the client. And sure enough, actually I've got a timeout because I was taking too long, which we need to go and discuss how we sort that timeout shortly. Okay, but you did see here that actually that you also see the errors coming out here to say things weren't working correctly, and also that's repeated in the peer log. Okay, I think at this point we'll stop this and come back, but hopefully you've got an idea of how you can cycle through that. Start and stop this, change code, restart, rebuild and restart, and attach the debugger if you wish.